April 14th, 1953, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A brand new baseball stadium is about to open its gates. It cost $5.9 million in taxpayer money. It was built on a literal garbage dump. Construction happened during the Korean War when steel was rationed. And here's the kicker. It was built for a team that will never play a single game there. Instead, the Boston Braves are about to take the field. They relocated at the last minute, making Milwaukee a major league city overnight. It wasn't just the stadium opening. It was the moment that changed American sports forever. Because Milwaukee County Stadium became one of the first modern publicly funded ballparks built specifically to attract a major league franchise. And that gamble, building with taxpayer money on a former dump during wartime, set off a chain reaction that reshaped baseball, created Lambeau Field, and proved that small cities could dream big. So how did a pile of garbage become a sports revolution? In 1950, Milwaukee had a problem. Actually, they had an opportunity disguised as a problem. The city had a passionate fan base. The minor league Milwaukee Brewers drew huge crowds at Borchert Field, a tiny wooden ballpark with just 10,000 seats. But if Milwaukee wanted to join the major leagues, they needed something bigger, much bigger. So Milwaukee County officials made an audacious proposal: use public bonds, taxpayer money, to build a major league stadium. But here's the catch. They didn't have a confirmed major league tenant. They were asking citizens to fund a $5.9 million ballpark, hoping to attract a team. In 1950, this was radical. Cities didn't use public money to build sports venues. Teams built their own stadiums. The idea of taxpayers funding a ballpark was controversial, risky, and completely unprecedented. But Milwaukee County was betting on the future. They believed if they built it, a team would come, and they needed to build it somewhere. That's when they looked at Story Quarry on the west side of town. It had been a stone quarry, then a garbage dump. Now it was just a wasteland of debris and refuse. Perfect. In October 1950, groundbreaking began on one of the boldest infrastructure gambles in American history. They were literally building dreams on top of trash. But Milwaukee's timing couldn't have been worse. Just as construction began, the Korean War escalated. The federal government imposed strict rationing on steel and construction material. New building projects were being shut down left and right. Milwaukee County Stadium should have been dead on arrival. County officials did something clever. They argued that construction had technically begun before the rationing order. It was a technicality, but it worked. The federal government allowed the project to continue. Still, steel shortages forced compromises. The design by Osborne Engineering had to be utilitarian. No fancy architecture, no elaborate decorations. Just a functional, expandable, double-deck grandstand with bleachers down the foul lines. Original capacity, 28,111 seats. But here's the genius. It was designed to expand from day one. They knew if this gamble paid off, they needed more seats fast. The construction crews worked through brutal Milwaukee winters. They were building on unstable ground, former quarry fill, and compacted garbage. Foundation work was critical. One mistake and the entire structure could settle unevenly. By April 1953, after 2.5 years of work, Milwaukee County Stadium was complete. Total cost, $5.9 million. That's about $65 million in today's money. And still, they had no team. The minor league Brewers were supposed to play there. That was the plan. But Major League Baseball had other ideas. In March 1953, just weeks before the stadium was set to open, the Boston Braves requested permission to relocate to Milwaukee. The Braves had been struggling financially in Boston. They saw Milwaukee's new stadium and passionate fan base as a lifeline. The National League approved the move immediately. Milwaukee County Stadium never hosted the team it was built for. The minor league Brewers stayed at Borchert Field. Instead, the stadium opened with a major league tenant before a single shovel of dirt had been moved for that purpose. April 14th, 1953, opening day. Warren Spahn took the mound for the Milwaukee Braves. Del Crandall caught for him. They beat the St. Louis Cardinals 3-2 in front of a packed crowd. The gamble had paid off instantly. And the fans showed up like nothing Milwaukee had ever seen. In their first season, the Braves drew 1.826 million fans, a National League record. They sold out game after game. The team that couldn't draw in Boston became one of baseball's hottest tickets in Milwaukee. By 1964, just 11 years after opening, the original construction bonds were completely paid off ahead of schedule. Taxpayers got their money back. The controversial public funding model had been vindicated. But more importantly, Milwaukee County Stadium had proven something revolutionary. You could use public money to build sports venues. You could attract major league teams to smaller markets. And you could make it work financially. Other cities were watching, and they were taking notes. Milwaukee's success sent a powerful message that franchise relocation could work financially, a lesson other teams quickly noted. In 1958, the Brooklyn Dodgers and New York Giants both moved to California. The Dodgers to Los Angeles, the Giants to San Francisco. They saw what happened in Milwaukee and realized smaller, underserved markets were viable opportunities. Baseball's geographic center shifted west. Cities that had never hosted major league teams suddenly became viable. The entire economic model of professional sports had been rewritten, and it all traced back to Milwaukee's gamble on a garbage dump. But the stadium's impact went beyond baseball, because Milwaukee County Stadium was designed for two sports from the beginning, and that dual-purpose design would save and create one of the most iconic stadiums in football history. In 1953, the Green Bay Packers started playing selected home games at Milwaukee County Stadium. It was a revenue move. Milwaukee had 35,000 more seats than Green Bay's tiny city stadium. For 41 years, from 1953 to 1994, the Packers split home games between Green Bay and Milwaukee, sometimes 2 or 3 games a season in Milwaukee. It was an awkward arrangement, but it kept the franchise financially viable. But here's where it gets interesting. The NFL wasn't happy with Green Bay's outdated facilities. In the late 1950s, the league made it clear Green Bay needed a modern stadium to remain viable as an NFL city. Green Bay responded decisively. They did what Milwaukee had done. They used public funding to build a new stadium. City Stadium was expanded and modernized in 1957, eventually becoming Lambeau Field. Without Milwaukee County Stadium as leverage, that might never have happened. The Packers might have become Milwaukee's full-time team. Lambeau Field might not exist. County Stadium's dual-purpose design was pioneering. The field could be converted from baseball to football configuration. Bleachers moved. The north end zone was so close to the dugout that players would literally run into the baseball infrastructure. And because both teams shared the same sideline, an NFL rarity, the atmosphere was uniquely intense. Milwaukee County Stadium didn't just change baseball, it shaped football history too. The stadium's best years came fast. In 1957, the Milwaukee Braves won the World Series, beating the New York Yankees. They returned to the World Series in 1958. The city was electric. County Stadium had become one of baseball's premier venues. Capacity expanded to 43,340 in 1954 when they extended the double deck down the foul lines. By the 1970s, further expansions pushed capacity over 52,000. But nothing lasts forever. In 1965, the Braves left Milwaukee for Atlanta. The city was heartbroken. The stadium sat mostly empty, hosting occasional events, but no major tenant. Then, in 1970, baseball returned. The Seattle Pilots relocated and became the Milwaukee Brewers, finally giving the stadium a team with that name. The Brewers made it to the World Series in 1982. The stadium witnessed legendary moments. Hank Aaron's final home run in 1976. Robin Yount's 3,000th hit in 1992. Nolan Ryan's 300th win in 1990. Bernie Brewer and his famous slide. The Racing Sausages. By the 1990s, though, County Stadium was showing its age. It lacked modern amenities, luxury suites, club seating, the revenue generators that newer stadiums had. Plans for a replacement began. Construction on Miller Park began next door in 1996. But on July 14, 1999, tragedy struck. A massive construction crane collapsed, killing 3 iron workers. Miller Park's opening was delayed. Milwaukee County Stadium got an unexpected 1-year extension. The old ballpark would host one more season. September 28, 2000, the final game. The Brewers lost to the Cincinnati Reds 8-1, but the score didn't matter. Before the game, Warren Spahn walked to the mound. He was 79 years old. Del Crandall, his catcher from opening day in 1953, put on his gear one more time. Spahn threw a ceremonial pitch to Crandall. The same battery that started Milwaukee County Stadium's story closed it. 47 years, connected by a single pitch. Bob Uecker, the Brewers' legendary radio voice, gave the closing speech. His final words, "For what was, will always be." The stadium was demolished in early 2001, but the legacy remained. Today, Helfer Field, a youth baseball complex, sits on the site. The original foul poles from County Stadium still stand. Kids play where legends once played. Milwaukee County Stadium operated for 47 years. It hosted 2 Major League Baseball teams, 1 NFL franchise, 3 World Series, countless concerts, and millions of fans. But its real legacy isn't what happened inside. It's what happened because it existed. Public financing became a standard part of the modern stadium model. Milwaukee County Stadium demonstrated that the approach could work. For better or worse, Milwaukee helped write that playbook. It proved small markets could support major league teams. It triggered the franchise relocation era that brought baseball west. It created pressure that built Lambeau Field. It demonstrated that controversial gambles on public infrastructure could pay off financially and culturally. All of that started with a garbage dump, a Korean War, $5.9 million in public bonds, and a city willing to bet on itself. Milwaukee didn't just build a stadium. They built a revolution, and they literally built it on trash. So here's my question for you. Was Milwaukee's gamble, using taxpayer money to build a stadium for a team they didn't have, genius or reckless? Should cities fund sports venues, or should teams pay for their own? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to see more stories about the bold infrastructure projects that changed everything, make sure you subscribe. We've got some incredible builds coming up. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.